Shoulders are.
Hi, I am Susan Baganz-Lodwick, and I'm here with DeeDee Lake. We are co-authors of the Rules of Engagement Military Romance series of sweet, inspirational military romances. And so I am here to ask DeeDee, can't even talk today, DeeDee, who was a Navy brat and an Army wife, what were the top 5 things that she loved about that life?
Okay, so top five. Let's see. My man in his uniform. I think that might be a top one. I don't know, but it's definitely the top five. He just always looks sharp, and I like that. Just the healthy environment that was there. People, exercising, taking care of themselves in the military. I like that. So that would be one of the top five. Another would be the community that's there. We as kids did this, and my kids did too when living on post. They just kind of ran from yard to yard. Nobody really owned the yard, so it was everywhere was a playful place for you as long as you're respectful. And so that's kind of neat just to have that community. I think it was a lot of like a throwback to years ago where people were just their kids were able to play, and adults watched out for them. And I think that's still true today there in the military. Another thing that I loved was being able to go and live in different places. It's different when you live in an environment than just going to visit. Like I've
Mhm.
traveled through almost all 50 states. Very few I haven't been through, but I've lived in a lot of them too. And living there makes such a difference. You get to know the community. You get to know what's important to them, the environment, the
Mhm.
social structure, especially once you go overseas, even more so. And that leads me to my other point is living overseas. I love the opportunity to live overseas because it really allowed me time to develop relationships and friendships and just situations there that I wouldn't have if I've only been there a week or a month. Or my husband went to Japan a couple times, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks each time. And he doesn't have relationships necessarily there, but getting to live in Panama or Korea or Spain, those were some places we lived, really enabled me to be able to join in. So how many is that now? I think
I lost track.
so. We've got. I love the uniform. I love the community. I love the living overseas.
All the
Uh,
states, living in all the states.
Going through all the states. Let me give one more. I think it's the top five, the fifth one. Let's see. I love the experience I was able to give my kids. It's a very inclusive environment, and we don't really worry about race and all the other situations that are going on in the world. We really get to focus on just who people are and get to love them where they're at. And my kids are that way. They're very accepting of people, and my husband and I both are, and my parents, that raised us that way in the military. So yeah, that's kind of my top five. I think it might be type four, might be six. I don't know, but
I think, well, you had talked about living in Rota, Spain and growing up there.
mm-hmm.
And I know when I was listening to that and hearing that when you've talked about stories of that, it just seems like your experiences have given you a wider worldview
Absolutely.
than the average American would have. So
Yeah.
you're patriotic, obviously, and nationalism is very important because military,
Yeah.
but you have a wider perspective on the different cultures
Mm-hmm.
and the way people live their lives, which I think for you as a kid and then for your kids too
Yeah.
is a huge blessing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of challenges with that as well, but
Absolutely.
I'm a little envious of that,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
there's something that's to be gained in that
Absolutely.
with that wider, bigger worldview, where most of us, I think, who may not leave ever the United States or only go to Mexico or Canada, have a more narrow perspective on how
Yeah.
people live in other parts of the world and their traditions.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
which we can be a little egocentric about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And so it's kind of neat that you and your family and others who serve in the military can have that broader view of the world, which is neat.
This is how egocentrical we are. That if that's the right word. Our maps always have the United States in the middle. In other
Yes.
countries, the United States is not in the middle of the map, and so that's of a world map. So that's something to think about. It's like we're not always the center. It does definitely living overseas and coming back to the states makes you appreciate what you have even more. It also I think gives you a real vision of who we are, too, because
Hmm.
you can look at it kind of almost as a visitor, and when you come back from those other places.
Hmm. I think, and I don't mean to get political here, and we weren't planning on this, so it's just kind of like, oh, I got to ask this question. So, when you have people who don't, they say they don't like America, and they don't like our Constitution, and they don't like what our country stands for, and they don't even like the military. I feel like, okay, but then go to Venezuela, go to Iran, and then try to live your lifestyle there,
Yeah.
and see what it's going to be like. Capitalism is not the enemy.
Nope.
And our Constitution has some very wonderful things to it. Everybody keeps talking about us being a democracy, but we're actually a democratic republic.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of words that get misused and twisted around to support people's views. But yeah, I think, when people don't want to stand for the flag and they don't want to respect our military and our Constitution, I think you haven't been outside of our country. You have no idea what you're asking for. Go to Cuba then,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
or Cuba. And and see why everybody's coming here, because we do have a lot to offer, and I do think that so many people who have lived there all their lives do not understand the cost that has been paid for the freedoms that we have.
Yeah.
And the blessings that we have here too.
Absolutely.
So you have a greater appreciation, and most military do. And I really admire the fact that a military person can stand and listen to somebody telling them how awful they are and how bad capitalism is and how bad the military is, and say, I fought for you to have the right to say those words.
Yeah.
And that is a pretty big heart to say, I may not agree and you're trashing me, but this is what I fought for, and this is what people died for you to have the right to have that opinion, and not be killed for it.
Yeah.
Because in other countries you would be.
Yeah.
So I think, hopefully I would expect most military families don't have those issues, because they have a greater appreciation for the country that we come from.
It's pretty rare.
I would think so.
Pretty rare.
I would
It does
think-
happen, but
It does.
It's rare.
Yes. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
This is very
anytime.
cool.
Yeah.
And if you have lived overseas, if you have been a military wife or brat, and you have experiences that you've had, what were your top favorite experiences? Not just places you lived, but what kind of things did you gain from that experience? Like DeeDee said, growing up in that and then living in it as an Army wife, there's some wonderful things that happen in that, and there's hardships, I know. But share with us the things that you remember, those good memories that you treasure as a part of your service to our country, whether you were in the service or married to it or born into it.
Yeah.
It would be lovely to hear that. Thank you.